Games will have flaws. I can forgive any but this. What does the word game mean to you? A dictionary will say something like, a competition played according to rules and decided by skill, strength, or luck. You might imagine two people playing chess, a stadium full of people watching a baseball game, or someone playing an online game at home. What probably doesn't come to mind is one of those chess players paying the chess federation to start with an additional queen and everybody being fine with it. Monetary advantages used to be explicitly forbidden by the rules, right? It was considered cheating to pay off a referee, not against the law, but just a matter of principle. In school, in court, in sports, in video games, we don't want success to be measured in plastic. There are good reasons why we isolate these activities from the influence of money. Even though they all cost something to operate, the operation itself has a special purpose we try to detach from our dollar-addicted world. But businesses need to make money. Absolutely. But I know I'm not the only one tired of that fact being used as a special license to behave unethically. Let me explain how unethical pay-to-win is and how it destroys games. When I say pay-to-win, what I mean is having monetized alternatives to mainstream play. Here's where players start the game, and here's where they're trying to go, completing the game, completing all the achievements, reaching the top of the PvE or PvP ladders, or some other popular goal. These are all the paths leading there, representing mainstream play. If a player encounters an alternative path that can be accessed through real-life currency, that path is a pay-to-win path. Why? Because it's a monetized alternative to mainstream play. Can I pay money for experience instead of earning it? Can I pay money for resources instead of earning them? When this is monetized and this isn't, what do you expect to happen? Perhaps the game will be built around this and not this. The players who enjoy the game for the right reasons aren't paying, and the players who would rather skip it are paying. If the developers accidentally improve the mainstream game too much, they lose revenue from people trying to pay their way past it. So they can't just focus on making a great game. They have to strike this ridiculous balance where the quality isn't so low that players stop playing, but not so high that players stop paying. Should people be able to play a pay-to-win game if they want to? Yes, of course they should, but that's not the problem. The phenomenon of pay-to-win is more ubiquitous now than it ever was. Older games set a standard upon which gamers developed their idea of what games were. Pay-to-win games are exploiting this reputation, and it feels like a bait and switch every time. We try a new game, we get our hopes up, but of course the developers are never upfront about the power of the dollar rocket, so we end up finding out after we already like the game. Pay-to-win games are cancer. They wouldn't exist at all without the good standing of older games that they pretend to be. There may be some debate over what exactly constitutes pay-to-win, but there is no debate over whether it's a bad thing. Pay-to-win is bad. Calling a game pay-to-win is always derogatory. Even calling a player a pay-to-winner is derogatory. Isn't that great? The people who the game supposedly depends on for support are part of a splinter community, and it's not even their fault. Ethical monetization strategies do not offer paid alternatives to mainstream play and will line up as closely as possible with quality. I've broken them into 3 categories: parallel, series, and disjoint, representing how they're connected to the mainstream game. Parallel offers alternatives to it, series is required along with it, and disjoint is completely detached from it. Here are some familiar examples, starting from ethical and ending in unethical, in my opinion. Supporter packs. Players basically donate money to keep the game running. Often they'll get some kind of vanity reward like a title, a pet, or a skin to show they supported the game, but didn't get any mainstream progress in return. Aesthetics. Players buy color schemes, skins, or titles. These have nothing to do with in-game power. Yes, the developers might make player gear look lousy to try to sell skins in the cash shop, but this is far more ethical than making the game itself lousy to try and sell progress. Audience. Televised competitions can generate revenue in a lot of ways that don't interfere with the mainstream. A game needs to build a community before it can become a spectator sport. However, esports are on the rise. New games that are fun to watch are on the right track. Capacities. Players buy option space, such as character, stash, or bank slots. The perks are mostly non-essential, so they're mostly separate from the mainstream. As long as players don't feel strong-armed into parting with their money, this one is ethical. Premium. Players pay a one-time fee to own the game and/or unlock new content, similar to how you need to buy a tennis racket before you can play tennis. The reason the ethics are sometimes questionable is that paywalls can lower the quality of a game if done wrong. Pay-to-play. Players pay for a monthly subscription to the game. The price may correlate with the costs of maintaining the game, similar to the cost of a consumable resource like gas or electricity. The ethics are questionable when the price starts becoming misaligned with how much players actually enjoy the game. Reserve currency. Players convert their dollars into an in-game currency that could be traded with other players or consumed for some set benefit. Players can technically trade money for any tradable item, but at least the in-game market determines their values, not the developers. Limited pay-to-win. Players can buy progress, but only up to a limit, such as a temporary experience boost or items that can only be bought once per week. Unlimited pay-to-win. Players can buy progress as much as they want and as often as they want. This is total spineless desperation at this point. Any company worth its salt will not need to monetize unethically, period. How about this? If you can't figure out a way to monetize your game without selling progress to players, then just don't call your game a game. And don't call yourself a game developer.